There we go. Welcome again, everyone. I am so pleased this evening to have people joining me, I think from Nepal, as far away as Nepal. And we are going to be having a presentation by the founder and chief executive of an organization called SeedTree. Her name is Kamala Kinsey. And we also have with us, unfortunately, just for a brief period, one of the board members, the board directors. His name is Dr. Brian Roth. And he reached out to me a number of months ago before all of this COVID-19 stuff to tell me about this program. So I was really pleased that we were able to host it virtually, if not in person, at the Camden Public Library. So with that, I do want to turn the program over to Dr. Brian Roth, and he'll tell you a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's a real pleasure to have you here and share this with you. It's something I'm very passionate about, and so I'm going to limit what how much time I take to introduce things, but I'm kind of doing double duty right now. We got a pandemic going on, and so I'm on the road as we speak, helping with our lockdown and things, keeping people at home, delivering packages and medicine and computers and mail and things. So I'm going to have to get back on the road shortly. But Carol is going to do most of the talking and beautiful presentation we put together. This is something I'm passionate about. I have been involved since 2017 as a board member. I enjoy what we're doing. We've got so many challenges with climate change and equality issues. We've got food security, insecurity, all kinds of things. And this program is dealing directly with all of those. I'm so passionate about it. This past winter, I left North America and traveled to Nepal and went all through the western part of Nepal on a very long 2-month journey visiting our sites where we're doing work with SeedTree. So I think without ado, I should turn this over to Carol, and she can start the presentation. And if anyone has questions, feel free to visit our website or send us an email or call us. Carol's quite amazing. She's been at this for over 25 years. The SeedTree program started 25 years ago in June in Nepal, and she has been visiting every year since. She's not missed a year to visit the research sites and visit our staff over there. Really, the key to this is through a participatory assessment. So rather than us going in and saying, here's what we think that you need, is going to a village and finding a local leader and groups and asking them, what is it that we can help you with? The key things that we do are provide seeds. These are tree seeds, sometimes vegetable seeds. And they are trees and shrubs and plants that will meet the needs for things like timber and fuel wood, fodder for the livestock. There's food, nuts, fruit, as well as the vegetables that we mentioned. So it's kind of a gift that keeps giving long after we leave. These things keep growing and providing for the community. The other thing we provide is training. So there's training in how to establish the nurseries, as well as training in kind of some eco-education classes. So while we have the group together, it's mainly women's groups, we'll have a group together, we've got their attention, and we can actually provide a curriculum based on things that in the natural world that they would be interested in. So climate change and the carbon cycle and weather cycle and different things that influence their lives. So it's a chance to do some education as well as growing some trees.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you select the different communities that you end up doing the programs in?
Some of it is through partnerships. So we have a partnership right now with the Peace Corps. That's the United States government agency, and what they do is through the Department of State, they place volunteers for 2-year terms, a little over 2 years. And so we've been working directly with them, up to a dozen different Peace Corps volunteers spread out through the country. And they have already got their communities and have chosen to work with SeedTree. So we partner with them, so those communities are chosen. And then the other way is through our existing network of, in-country program managers and local leaders, that they're working directly in their communities, and they have identified needs and key stakeholders that way.
We just got a message in from that says that Carol is rebooting her computer, her router, and she will be back soon. So
Yeah.
we'll wait just a little bit longer for her to rejoin us. In the meantime, can you tell us about your involvement and how you discovered this program and how you became involved? Because you sound very passionate about it.
Yeah, so I have a PhD in forestry, so I'm a tree nerd. Anything to do with trees I love, and what I'm really passionate about is how trees can help people. And I mentioned some of those really big issues that we have in the world, and those this program that Carol's put together, for me, it checks all of the boxes. All of the things that we worry about here in North America, in other countries, this is actively doing it. And it does it with very little funding. So a little bit of money in Nepal goes a very long ways. So the contributions that our donors are making and our partners, almost all of that money goes to Nepal and is spent directly on things that are needed and important there. And so that's really the biggest thing that got my interest is here's a way to actively participate, make a difference, and be engaged and involved. And that's something that we can't always do. I heard about the program when I was working at the University of Maine. I was in Maine for almost a decade before I came back to Canada after this trip to Nepal, which got cut a little short with the pandemic. Came back to Canada where it's a little safer and I have some healthcare here. So in Maine, I had heard about Carol and her program and paid a visit to Nepal and visited a site or two and came back and said, Carol, this is fantastic. And somehow I ended up on her board of directors.
Well, you sound like a very good spokesman for the program and very knowledgeable of the subject matter too. So I imagine that she values you quite a bit. So for those of you who are just joining us, Carol's router went down, and so she is rebooting and will be joining us again shortly. Of course, these little things happen once in a while. So I know that the program is primarily involved with working with women's groups and empowering women's groups. How has that decision come to, and are there men that also participate in the program?
There are. It's not exclusive to women's groups, but it's very easy to do in Nepal because the women are the people out on the front line. They're the ones doing the cooking. They're the ones working in the fields. And so all of the things we do with planting trees goes right back to improving their lives. So if we can plant a forest closer to their home that provides fuel wood for doing the cooking, that frees up some of their time that they can then use to either spend with their families more or do some education or just make their lives easier. The women's groups and mothers groups, it's a fairly common thing in Nepal. And so it's kind of a ready-made little cohort that comes along with some accountability, and they have an accounting system if they want to share some resources. They meet regularly, they share things easily. And so it's really just, it makes the most sense. And the women are the ones out getting the impacts of climate change, for example, are hitting them the hardest, and the pandemic also. And this is something that we can actually work directly on.
There we are in Nepal on a holiday. Brian gave us a retreat, which I protested, but it was wonderful. Brian wanted to mention about the uniqueness of Nepal. It covers only the size of Florida looking down at the map, but if that were flattened out, the surface area would cover the United States. The topography is made diverse people speaking 129 mother tongue languages and diverse biology, which we're hoping to help. Oops, sorry. So the challenges for rural farmers, as you can imagine, are quite amazing. So much soil erosion. It's a challenge to keep enough fertile topsoil. Yet the opportunities, particularly offered by community forestry, just are quite remarkable and unique to Nepal, because their master plan for the forestry sector gave poor landless people the ability to form sustainable management groups and have the profits that they could gain from practicing sustainable forestry. That policy really is as responsible for our success as anything we did. It was like catching a wave, bringing that down into the Tarai, which is the lowland. Now, another fact about this topography of Nepal is that from Everest to the lowland, there's just about 5.5 vertical miles of drop in 125-mile width of the country. So besides the topography, there was the Maoist insurgency for our first 10 years. That created a bunch of difficulties, and the restructuring of the government is also, but coronavirus tops them all. It's really halted much of our activity this year. When I arrived in Nepal, I arrived with a map like this, and you see the Chitwan National Park in central southern Nepal. And I was to go out to Tulsipur Dang in the west to get seed of one agroforestry species and give it to school children. And also, then the next year I went back and found that the school children, the most successful school project was the ones who gave their seed to farmers. And that did very well. So that sort of gave me the idea. Plus, it was really ubiquitous. People in Nawal Parasi said, we don't need this, we have it right here. So I thought, well, I have to do photos of some actual work. Why not do it the way I think it should be done? Diverse species, engaging the people so that they really are self-determining their program. And so I went with a Taru-speaking indigenous woman who could communicate with the people around the park. The Taru people have lived there long enough to gain malaria immunity to some degree. And we went to this village sort of just led there by our waiter, and Sani translated my questions. And I wanted to engage their interest so they would be motivated to plant on their own if we provided the seed. And we asked questions like these. Now I'll just let you read for the most part. And they would name the species that they used for these things, and we would write it down, and we wrote down their names. And eventually, toward the end of the discussion, oh, by the way, this was a tree that was worshipped locally as an image of the Creator. And I think it's a pretty good one, a pretty good image. But there's so many reasons they use trees, and this is one medicinal one, Pterocarpus marsupium, which is modern research is finding really does help regulate blood sugar levels and is a general tonic. Very valued by the people of Dang. They asked for it because it was gone. It's extirpated from Dang, and one of our proudest achievements is bringing that back, along with Malagiri. So asking if there are any species that are in decline or endangered really kind of winds up the questionnaire, which now we've made it quite formal, have it all printed out bilingually. And if we would provide the seed, would you like to plant? And they usually do. Now, so this is our first, this is actually before SeedTree, but the success of that group, you know, they did want to plant, and they did. And the women's group, which was a literacy class, was joined by a young men's group. And the president there, Sukai, said we could repeat this process in 10 or even 100 villages. So I came back to the States and engaged Tom Hammett, who graciously agreed to be a co-founding officer. And we formed with also another gentleman from Maine, no longer with us, formed SeedTree. And you know, it wasn't just to be a tree planting organization. It was really to try to protect the ecosystem through the human. The park protects it by kind of a legal status, but we thought the people outside the park need to learn how to grow their own forest products instead of degrade the national park. So we started, and the thing about the questionnaire, PRA, Participatory Rural Appraisal, is that it really aims at empowering them to think that their own action can really bring uplift. And so immediately we had two partners. The first one, Nepal Indigenous Development Society, that helped us with that nursery, and 5 more in that VDC, these little like divisions within the district. And one of their members was part of another partnership. And now in the restructuring of Nepal, the municipalities are assuming more authority over it. It was when we were working there at first, the districts held most of the authority, and we would go to them. Now we're in one of our districts, we're working through one municipality that is connecting us to 15 groups. And we are engaged with 9 of them this year, and we're going to do the rest in the future, but things are pretty much on hold. So let's see. Okay, what happened there? So the opportunity that I mentioned of community forestry, people didn't know about it at that time. 1996, SeedTree's first full program year. So in 3 districts, Chitwan, Banke, and Bardia, we invited people through and Dang rather. Banke Bardia was one, and Dang held workshops in seed collection and community forestry. And that really just got a lot of people. There were only 3 community forest community forest user groups in Chitwan, and only 1 in Banke, none in Dang, that municipality anyway. And now they're abundant. That is Banke and Bardia, women from Bardia that came. And this is Dang, centered around Tulsipur. This particular nursery, this is the assistant forest officer. This is a ranger. The ranger worked closely with us with the AFO, saw only a confluence of interest, no conflict of interest. So he became a long partner of ours. And at that time, there was just the Banke National Park out west. And now I'm sorry, the bardia in the darker green. But now, which was just a pipe dream of linking those forests, there's a new Banque National Park that makes it look less like a pipe dream, linking those Chitwan and Bardia, where, you know, there's so many groups of endangered wildlife. If they have a chance to reconnect with each other, you know, it will certainly help their species. And so that's, and then this was the start of our second fundamental program, the first being tree planting. The second is education. This community asked us for a teacher, and we said, that's really a little outside. Well, we thought about it and thought, really, that certainly could be within our mission, and we could give you a class in ecological education. And wrote our coordinator at the time, Vishnu BK, wrote the first manual, Ourselves and Our Environment. And some time later, we brought other people in to see if it could even be improved. So we have representatives from all sorts of stakeholders, the park, the Institute of Agriculture, and teachers, facilitators from our class, which don't only have to have like a school education to, you know, we try to keep it quite simple, and really we've improved it so much we need to go back and re-simplify. But it's quite remarkable because you find really barely literate and sometimes illiterate women discussing carbon dioxide and oxygen, and they understand that the green leaves keep that balance. So we opened a field office in Bharatpur, and it's a smaller office now because I no longer live there, but we still have a SeedTree Nepal. This is Dang. Now this is, I showed you that nursery in Dang where the AFO was helping us. Well, there in the lower left corner, that nursery, he just had no hope for it. But they were quite hopeful, watering it, and those trees that I showed you in Dang grew out of that nursery. And this woman on the left, Janaki, she later sold 4 of those trees and was able to buy a whole section of land from the profit. It was rosewood, very valuable, and we planted a lot of that the first year. Then that's our office, and that's 2001, we made a national Nepalese group, SeedTree Nepal, and the gentleman here in the white hat in the center, lower center, is still president and still with us. This was our office in Madi, the valley south of Chitwan Park. These two, he's now with World Wildlife. He's president of SeedTree Nepal, and he's with Halvitas soil management program. So they've both gone on, and they were just like high school students when we started. So there have been quite a few of those people. We start with seed, of course, and that is seed collected by the group, which is our first priority. And we had quite a seed collection network established, but lately since we partnered with Nepal Agroforestry Seed Cooperative, we're going more and more to them, and they use our network, although, you know, it was a mutual relationship, although we're relying more on them because we have fewer staff to assist with the seed collection in Chitwan. And this is that partner. So this is a Kathmandu office, and we share the office with them. Their field program, this Knox called Krishiban, is agroforestry. This is Nepal Agroforestry Seed Cooperative, and Krishiban means agroforestry. That's a nonprofit associated with the business, and they really formed to implement our program as a program partner. So the process from seed, it's got to be distributed, and it's quite easy in the lowlands. Here we're delivering from a Jeep, and here Brian and XPVC Hayden Rue are carrying seed 10 kilometers overland. So that was some of the challenges we're facing with the new Peace Corps program, which is Peace Corps partnership. They've extended into some really kind of remote areas, and it makes it difficult for us. But it's nice to engage young Americans. Let's see. So monitoring, we try to, actually we don't pay for anybody to plant trees. We want them to do it out of their own felt self-interest, but we do pay for getting reports back. And this is who we are at present. Although I think maybe Tom Hammett is on here. He was certainly a vital co-founding officer, well established in Nepal, and continues there often. If you're there, Tom, namaste. But let's see. Presently, Peter Arnold, who was at part of Chwanki and now is with Maine Sea Vegetables and Energy Projects, is president. Indira Silwal Casey also came to Nepal with us and helped a lot with translations, and she has expressed a willingness. We need to have a board meeting this month, and Indira and Vishnu Hari Wagle, also both at University of Maine. Indira is a researcher, I believe, Dr. Indira Silva, and Vishnu Hari Wagle is working on master's degree, or I'm sorry, PhD degree there. He is actually a professor at the Institute of Forestry in Pokhara. And Tammy Higgins of Winterport is our treasurer, public accountant. George Ritz is a highly experienced forester with a big program in Paraguay. And he and Peter served together in the Peace Corps in Chile during a difficult time, I think. Brian Roth, we met earlier, who's very busy and probably no longer with us. And that's me, Carol, the executive director. Suraj, the three of us really are the executive committee. We make most of the on-the-spot decisions. Suraj helps a lot with, you know, budgeting and really knowing how things operate in Nepal. And he was a student, not even starting his bachelor's when he contacted us, and now he's just received his PhD from the University of Georgia. And his advocacy for, he said, don't help me, help Biju. And we secured a scholarship for her work study. So she was actively involved while getting her graduate degrees, 3 master's degree, in translating and really managing, dispersing funds within Nepal. She's a vital, what we now call essential worker these days. She's really a vital part of the team. And I should say Brian is really enthusiastic and generates a lot of interest. He went all the way out west. The 2 on the left are from Nawalparasi, central Nepal, right near Chitwan, across the river from the park. And they had a difficult time. Great nursery, but lost a lot. Okay, I better hurry. This was Sarita, who was our Peace Corps program is that we form teams. So the Peace Corps volunteer has to find a local leader and they become a cooperating team. And this young lady was a local leader who really wanted to continue even after her Peace Corps volunteer returned to the States. And so we went ahead with her, and she enlisted another woman in Lomjung, her sister-in-law, who also, they live separate parts of the area, and they both are now leaders in their own right and doing quite well and keeping good communication with Biju. Agroforestry workshops are part of our process, and these are old ones at the Institute of Agriculture, and this one is one of the slides. This lady is a professor of agroforestry, and so we have so many presentations. It's a three-day workshop, and it has a practicum. This is one of the local leaders from, let's see, far west. I'm not sure if it's, no, it's not the extreme far west, but I guess it's Aga Kanchi. And you see the difficult terrain to work with, but she's quite a dynamic leader, and they've, you know, they're already planting out from the nursery that Brian oversaw. So all the Peace Corps projects got their nurseries established. Brian saw to that. And out planting of course is the vital end of it. Now, going back to that very first nursery at Jungho-Lee, I went back, and these are probably from this is possibly from ours, 1 and 2 year old trees. They showed me, but this fellow who's under here, Jared Stapp, did a study, and using Landsat, he found that this Narayani, where we were giving, this is in Narayani, this was the worst district. He came over as an intern and chose the worst, the best, and a middle one. We had worked extensively with the best, not at all with the worst, and also we worked with the middle one in Madi, but we didn't visit them, so I'll focus on the ones we did. This Bacholi is where that first place, Jungho-Lee, was, and you see it got I think it was 162% gain over that period, 2005 to 2013. We had, just in 96 and 97 alone, we had reported over 250,000 seedlings produced in our nurseries. And this was giving a survey. This is also this lower right, and all of these, in fact, are that town, Jankoli, and the women had been able to build this community center, from their gains. And I put this in as the sporadic nature of our impact assessment. They really couldn't give me anything definite until I was reading the list of seed that they had received. And I named this species as one of them, and she just pointed over to them. But so that's nice to know, oh yes, they're getting, but really we don't, it's often forgotten after a few years that where they got that seed or anything. But we know they're getting good results. Sometimes, sorry. So water supply is part of the program if needed. These water harvest ponds were established in Madi, where we worked pretty exclusively, as far as I know, until about 9 years after we started there. World Wildlife came in with that Tarai Arc project, which is really making concrete that dream of uniting the forests along the Tarai. Mulberry is also valuable. And kitchen gardening, here we're doing it in 2013, or 14 and 15. We really started adding food when the earthquakes in Sindhu Palchuk. Biogas is a great thing, burning methane instead of having it be in the atmosphere, and improved stoves. So these are our current projects. Down here, Biju is in this lower right district, Japa, and she moved there from Kathmandu with the coronavirus, and we set her up with good communications. And so she's in touch with all these, but there's no travel going on, except in Sindhu Palchok. He has a motorcycle and he gets up there occasionally. So Sindhu Palchok and Chitwan have received the extent, although we plan to do 9 classes and 9 nurseries and get vegetable seed and fruit trees. They got 699 households got over 2,000, roughly 3 fruit trees per participant. And then all the rest are in the Peace Corps project, Peace Corps Partnership project. And these are previous years where we've worked, and the dark green districts are ones in which we have present. This was the end of this Peace Corps training. The previous year it was twice as big, but Peace Corps reduced it. And practicum and lectures, and also demonstration, discussion groups too. Some of the activities of the Eco Ed, there's that. Oh, this is one I didn't get the photo this year, but it's pretty impressive. Anyway, this is back years ago, and these trees are really nice forest now. Down 1997, the water runs dry. We planted. You can't even see the trees there. I was pretty discouraged. And then when I go back in 2007, the water supply is now annual, all year round. And they have a 7-hectare, which is 2.5 times that, roughly 4 acres, 19-acre community forest. And this, Brian visited it, and there's still, this gentleman was always part of it. He is our ranger, now retired. And in Chitwan too, this is Seti Devi. He's telling me about the wildlife at that time. And this time we saw, this is a tiger print. They said the tiger that made that print, and this was our one of our areas where we're responsible for these trees, SeedTree. But this print was right at our feet there practically. This says 38 inch. So, and this was again Jankoli finding a 97 hectare community forest that came out of all those trees, which I never saw till this year, where so many trees could have wound up until this year. So I was quite overjoyed. And later in May, we heard that these endangered woolly-necked storks were nesting in there, and this made the Kathmandu Post such a rare event. So I think, oh, that's not quite the end. Let's see, there's the end. So thank you. And this is, we're all gathered at our hotel. It's my original partner and present day partners and hotel, and he's a bird specialist.
Thank you so much, Carol. This was a very, very informative program. I'm really interested to know if you could talk a little bit more about how COVID-19 has affected your program and both the local people's ability to get out into the nurseries and work, and your representatives from your organization, how it's affected their ability to get there and be part of it.
Well, Nepal's had one of the strictest lockdowns that I've ever heard of. They were arresting people who would go out in a vehicle, and that was for quite a long time. And it was, it would say it's in place for the next 10 days or maybe 2 weeks. So we were hanging on, but it kept getting extended. So Biju was depending on cell phone. Ram did get up to Sindhu Palchok, and we did get the fruit trees to Sindhu Palchok and Chitwan during one of the open periods, but it's locked again. And we distributed masks. We don't see that they're all wearing them in the photos that come back, but some they are, particularly Sindhu Palchok. At first they were saying, it's not going to come here. We are so isolated, we're not concerned. But then they had to be concerned because, it came down. But so far, we don't know of anyone getting ill or affected, but they are definitely inhibited by pretty strict law. Some periods they've had, like on alternate days of the week, they'll let people drive or so they divide a community. This group of people can drive on Monday and Wednesday like that. But it's very hard, and we're, the people in the remote villages can't go out and renew their cell phone card. So Biju's not getting good reporting. We do have a couple that are able to report. We're going to instead, we couldn't travel to them, so we're seeing if they can get purchase vegetable seed locally, and we'll pay for it. We do give the group leaders a stipend for keeping reporting and management, but we haven't gotten any confirmation that that's being done. So we're keeping everyone employed. That's our staff is still there. I'm still here, and we expect, and as soon as we can, we'll go on with the commitments we made, which is 9 villages in Sindhu Palchok, 9 in Chitwan. They've got their textbooks now, and they've got but they don't have their vegetable seed, and they don't meet regularly for class. They have met maybe a few times, but they're hesitant to come together and, you know, they meet outdoors. Or now monsoon comes and they don't, you know, are unlikely to meet out in the monsoon.
Sure.
But that's coming to a close soon. We're hopeful, but
Yeah.
not knowing.
Yeah, that's the most difficult part, is us not knowing when there's going to be an end to this, so that things can sort of resume normal operations. Suraj, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing this name, has put in a comment, says, "Thank you, Carol and Brian, for your great presentations. ST have been working in Nepal since 1990s. What is the major adjustment you have adopted or done in your program to adjust with changing socioeconomic landscape?"
A major adjustment over that period of time? Well, I think we've moved into smaller groups. At first, it was like we were catching a wave of opening the Tarai to community forestry, and the demand for what were offering was amazing. So it was really like a surfer who gets the 40-foot wave and manages to surf it. But now it's very much slowed. We're in smaller communities, more difficult access. The need is great, but they often don't have that same access to easy growing space for plantations. It's more agroforestry. I think, does that answer your question?
I think so. And if not, feel free to please, put an extension to the question into the chat box. Tom's left a comment, says, "I love hearing about the progress of SeedTree. Thanks for having this program." I think that's Tom Hammett. You mentioned him earlier in the program.
Yeah, he was essential. I got to drop his name and it opened a lot of doors. He's done a lot for Nepal.
Oh, that's excellent. So for people who are interested in this program, I heard you mention a number of times that you're working with the Peace Corps, and it seemed like you had some folks from the University of Maine that have participated in some studies and done some studies for you. So what other opportunities are available to people through your program who want to, again, when COVID-19 has passed and the travel restrictions are lifted, what sort of opportunities are available to people who want to get involved with the SeedTree program physically in Nepal?
Physically in Nepal. Well, we'd have to kind of work that out. Right now, nothing. There's just no travel to Nepal. But actually, sometimes Tom Hammett takes groups. But we've had interns come over. We've had people accompany me. I love it when, I have an English-speaking companion to show the program to and everything. Here in America, we could use help with updating our website, which, somebody needs to teach me how to use Wix or something. So
there's opportunities for people to help here in America with the program, especially in the meantime.
Well, the administration of it, yes. In Nepal, it's interesting. If somebody wanted to travel, now Brian was very keen to do this traveling, but now he won't be able to do it. So going to visit the sites and and monitor, and they'd have to go through some preparation with me, because we want to take full advantage of anyone who gets out to a site. They should. I'll tell you one thing we're looking at that Brian initiated is a program called Tree Tracker .org, treetracker.org. By Greenstand. It's a program that you can take, and he did it. You can look on the Tree Tracker maps and zoom in on ones he took in Lamjung, Rainas, R-A-I-N-A-S. just snapped a few photos of trees that we had planted and upload them with GPS. Then if we got cell phones that could do that to group leaders, that Greenstand thinks that's a potential opportunity for them to profit, not just from planting trees, but from keeping them growing. So every year and the GPS verifies, yes, that's the same tree. And that way, you know, that's Greenstand makes that point that it doesn't matter how many you plant, it's how many grow and put out foliage that changes our atmosphere and changes our soil and water and all that. It's so Brian particularly is really interested in that. I want to, our accountability right now is by representative sampling, but really it doesn't go well far beyond the outplanting and that report. But to get another report beyond that, we don't expect that from the group leaders at this stage. You know, we don't fund that, I should say. So something like that, where they could have the ability to continue reporting would be a real advance. But it's full of, you know, to get internet service out there, that it's not so expensive. Actually, Nepal's data services are compared to ours very inexpensive.
Right, we're going to need to wrap up the program in just a minute or so, but I just wanted to give, I noticed a lot of names in the participant list here that seem to be similar to the ones I saw on your screen earlier. So I wanted to give folks who have joined us the opportunity, if anyone wants to say anything about the program, I've selected it so you can unmute yourself now if you'd like. Feel free to chime in if there's anything you'd like to say about the program or your experiences with the program. You can go ahead and say it if anyone wants to say anything. Let's see. I'm not sure if anyone's unmuting themselves. Just checking, because I knew that we were having a bunch of folks involved joining us. All right. Looks like not. Okay. Well, thank you so much anyway, everyone, for joining. Carol, I did want to mention your website so that if people are interested in finding out more information.
There is, but it's very outdated. But the essentials of the program are there. But like the board, you get more truth right here today than you will there. But those people have been involved, and yet we haven't. I need to learn how to do web design. And
it's not easy. It's not easy.
I used to know, but they changed the program or something. Now I'm lost.
No, they sure do. Well, hopefully someone will see this and they can contact you. And it looks like by going to seedtree.org, they can at least, you know, become a little more connected with the program and find some information there about how to reach out to you and representatives from your program. And as I mentioned earlier at the top of the program, we will be sharing this recording. I'm going to edit it to the point where Carol begins her talk. And then we'll share that on YouTube. So if you would like to, you know, share the link on YouTube, you can either reach out to me and get it, or you can find it there on the Camden Public Library Programs YouTube channel. So it looks like we're having a bunch of people saying namaste, and also they wanted to mention that you also have a YouTube page. I'm sorry, a Facebook page. So look for SeedTree on Facebook as well.
And our partners, NAFSCOL, NAFSCOL, and SeedTree Nepal, both they put their work. We like everyone take all the credit they can get.
Well, it looks like there's a few ways out there for people to connect with you and to follow what's going on with your program. So with that, I want to thank you very much, Carol and Brian. I know you've signed off already, but thank you too for speaking to us this evening about your program. And I think it's incredible work that you both are doing, that you all are doing. And I applaud your efforts, and, you know, fingers crossed that your program will continue to expand and prosper, and just again, thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for that. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right. Good night, everyone. And I want to just remind folks, you're always welcome to Camden Public Library programs. You can find out more about them at librarycamden.org. I hope to see you all again. Bye-bye.
Bye.